Alrighty, welcome back everyone. Scarlan here, bringing you a new Neverwinter video. And today, as the title suggests, we're going to be looking into the new racial abilities, the racial traits. Now, there hasn't really been major changes. However, I felt that a video should be made, especially any newer players coming into the game. Then they can see, the race selection and the new traits. So anything that happened in the past is now irrelevant. The combat changes are officially live. If you're watching this video, I believe today is January 23rd of 2021. So those changes did go live a couple days ago on PC. Now these changes haven't been launched on console yet. However, if you're watching this video in the future, then these changes probably are current. So let's just jump into this. Like I said, there was just very slight changes, and I'll try to point them out if I can, but I want to focus on the present. So let's just jump right into this. So we have human on the screen right off the bat. You have versatile defense. You gain 1% to all of your ratings. That includes your offensive and defensive stats. So this was changed. It used to be 250 just across the board, right? Well, now everything has migrated pretty much over to percentile numbers just to make everything easy. And then you also get ability scores. It's +3 to any ability score. Now this, again, now makes the human kind of a valid option for for a race. Before, obviously, Metallic Dragonborn was best in slot, no competition whatsoever. So they tweaked these races a little bit. Now this hasn't changed, of course. The 3 ability scores haven't changed. However, the game itself has changed. So thus, the overall changes to the game now have made the human a viable option for a race if you so choose. For instance, you can now stack all 3 of these points into Constitution to boost your HP, or Intelligence for magical damage, or whatever the case may be. Whereas before, most people were stacking Constitution and Dexterity for the crit severity and the HP. Well, now you don't necessarily have to dump your attributes into Dexterity, because crit severity is now actually a stat, and most people, especially endgame players, shouldn't have any problems maxing out their their crit severity, thus meaning you won't have to dump points into Dexterity for that bonus, because crit severity has a hard cap, obviously. So human is a valid option, in my eyes at least. Let's move on to the half-orc. Not much has changed here. Actually, I don't think anything has changed here. This is still all the same. So your crit severity is 5% higher. Your ability scores is Dexterity, Constitution, or Strength. And then you get the Swift Charge, 10% movement speed for 3 seconds when you enter combat. I don't think any of this has changed at all. The half-orc has not been changed, I don't believe. Next on the list, we have the Gith. We have Dexterity, Strength, or Intelligence, and we have the Endurance. Your heightened Endurance allows you to regenerate stamina 5% faster. This was boosted. This used to be 3%. I believe it was 3%. Now it's been increased to 5%, and that's not horrible, especially for some classes that solely rely on stamina. Of course, I'm talking to tanks. Now, are you going to, switch to the Gith race for the stamina regeneration so you can have more shielding? I don't know personally. I don't play a tank, but, you have to think about that. They also have a bonus to combat advantage, and it's now 5% combat advantage, whereas this was changed. It did give just a solid 5,000 combat advantage, so now it's 5%. Respectively. And again, the Gith is now a valid race because most endgame players aren't having to worry about capping their power or their crit severity or even their critical strike and accuracy. All of your stats can be capped to a degree of where you feel comfortable with, and now a race can even help that even more. For instance, if I choose the Gith race here, I'm going to get 5% more combat advantage, thus helping me reach that 90% hard cap threshold, so I can actually focus my gear or my enchantments or my companions or my mounts or any source of statistical value can be focused otherwhere. So, or elsewhere rather. For instance, if I'm struggling with my crit, I can then focus on my crit by picking a gift that I'm going to gain that extra 5% that might, if I'm sitting at 85%, and then this boosts me to 90%, and I can focus on my critical strike with my gear and my chance, etc. It's something you have to pre-plan and play around with to get an understanding of how the new system's working, and, of course, balancing your character how you see fit. The Wood Elf, we have accuracy here. So, it's called Elven Accuracy, but it's actually critical strike. And this was actually a huge boost. This used to only give 1,500 raw statistical value, and now it gives a 5%. So this is actually a pretty big increase. It went from 1,500 raw statistical value all the way to a bonus of 5% now. So Wood Elf, again, a viable option. If I have gear that is already boosting my power, my combat advantage, my accuracy, and now I'm struggling trying to hard cap my critical strike, if you need that extra 5%, well, guess what? Wood Elf could be a valid option for your character. Ability scores is Dexterity, Intelligence, and Wisdom. And then Wild Step also got a pretty significant buff, in my opinion. I think this used to be 10%, so they actually literally doubled it. A 20% resistance to effects that slow your movement. Now, obviously, this is really good for PvP, but there are some instances in PvE content that this is actually worthwhile. So again, Wood Elf, in my eyes, is now a valid race. Sun Elf. Let's look at the Sun Elf. It's Inner Calm. It boosts your action point gain by 5%. This again was increased. In the old system, I think it was only 2%, so it gained 3%. That's pretty big, in my opinion, going from 2% to 5% action point gain. The Sun Elf is actually going to be, in my opinion, one of the best in slot races now, because action point gain is slowly becoming like the old school action point gain. You can really boost your action point gain and gain your daily back extremely quickly. So those classes that rely on their dailies for damage or utility, such as rogues and rangers, for instance, you might actually play a Sun Elf to even boost your AP gain even higher. Now again, we're talking about very specific niche builds with classes, but even as a warlock, I currently play a Sun Elf on the live servers even before the changes happened, and I was playing Sun Elf even for the 2% bonus to action points. Well, now that's being bumped up to 5%. So I'm not sure if I'm going to play a Sun Elf, or there's a few other things that I'm, personally thinking of for the warlock. I'm not exactly sure. Again, it comes down to the build. I might be running an AP build on the warlock. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to play. Obviously, there will be warlock builds coming out as we get closer to a console release. Now, of course, this is officially on PC. So, ability scores Intelligence, Dexterity, Charisma, and then the Sun Elf Grace is 10%. It's control resistance, right? Control resistance by 10%. This wasn't changed. So, Sun Elf, again, another viable race now. You guys can see a pattern. I've pretty much said that all of the races so far have been viable compared to before, that shiny metallic Dragonborn was just simply best in slot and nothing ever even competed with it. Let's look at the little dwarfy here. The dwarf, I don't think got changes. I'm looking at this. It did. I'm sorry. So it's 20% increased resistance to knock and push effects. Again, decent for PvP and some instances of PvE. Dwarfs, when you think of a dwarf, you're mainly thinking of a tank character. There's not very many ranger dwarfs running around, or warlock dwarfs, unless you're just trolling. But most people that pick a dwarf race is usually a tank, like a paladin, barbarian, or fighter. So I mean, it's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but Constitution, Strength, and Wisdom for the ability scores, and then Cast Iron is what got changed. Cast Iron used to be 2,000 defense of a raw statistical value, and now it's been significantly buffed to 5% defense. So the tanks now need to, keep that in mind, that if now we're focusing on awareness, because awareness is a very important stat now when it comes to boss bonus damage, you have to be thinking about getting a high enough awareness or maxing out your awareness. So as a tank, if you're focusing on awareness and the other defensive statistics, maybe this 5% extra defense just coming from the Dwarf pushes you to your hard cap. Halfling here, I'm trying to think. I don't think anything got changed with the Halfling. I'm looking. No, I stand corrected again. I completely forgot. It's the deflection. The deflection got a huge boost. This used to have only been 1,500 deflection. So again, a huge increase, going from 1,500 raw statistical value now to just a solid 5% bonus deflect. So again, PvP, huge for PvP. Halfling has always been one of the best in slot races for PvP. Now it is definitely, a pretty strong contender for being best in slot as far as race goes for specifically PvP content. Now PvE, yay, if you play a deflection niche related build, maybe you like the Halfling, and then nothing here, it's still 10% control resist. Moving on to the half-elf, 2 ability scores, and it's automatically determined by your class. This was actually buffed. This was actually only 1 ability score, so this was actually buffed to 2. So now you're actually getting 4 attributes from a half-elf. Keep in mind that the human only gets 3, right? And most other classes get 4 total, I believe, right? So you can either have 2 dexterity or 2 strength. The human can put 3 into any one single attribute, and now the half-elf here, you actually get 6 from the half-elf. I don't know what I said before, but it's 6, because you can have 2 Constitution, and then either 2 Charisma or 2 Wisdom, and then you gain another 2 attributes, depending on what your class is. So this is actually, again, a very valid option for a race, depending on the build that you're using, etc., So this is 6 attributes. I think this is the only race in the game that can actually even obtain 6 attributes. So that doubles the attributes from a human, right? So you could have 3 into any attribute that you want, right? You get to pick the attribute that you want. You can put it into Constitution, for example. The half-elf, you don't have that luxury. You are forced into having either 2 Constitution, well, you're going to have 2 Constitution, and then you're either going to have 2 Charisma or 2 Wisdom, but then you also get 2 more attribute points based upon your class. So just keep that in mind. And I don't think very much has changed here. I think this was a 1% bonus, and I think it actually had deflection. I think this had 1,500 raw statistical value of deflection, 1,500. Now they did away with that and increased it, because I think this was only 1%. I think the crit severity and the gold bonus was 1%. It's now increased to 3%, and they included the deflection, and they took the raw statistical value away. So overall, the half-elf is actually a pretty decent race, depending on what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish. Let's move on to the Tefling here. Another strong contender for me personally. And nothing's really changed except they doubled Infernal Wrath. Blood Hunt hasn't been changed. You deal additional 5% damage to targets below half health, right? So you're just going to automatically gain 5% bonus damage whenever your target is below half health. So that's huge by itself. This wasn't changed. What changed was Infernal Wrath. When you receive damage, you have a 10% chance to apply Infernal Wrath to your attacker for 5 seconds, and it reduces the damage of the target's attacks by 5%. This was actually doubled I think it was only 2.5%, and now it's a whole 5%. So it's a debuff. Now, of course it doesn't stack. So if you have a bunch of Teflings running around, you're not going to stack it so you can, do Zariel, and Zariel is practically going to do no damage to you. It doesn't work like that. But if you're soloing stuff, just keep that in mind that, you have a 10% chance, 5 seconds, blah, blah, blah. You're going to reduce your target's attack by 5%. So it's more about Blood Hunt than Infernal Wrath, but Infernal Wrath is still decent. But Blood Hunt is that extra 5% damage at half health. Let's move on to the Drow. Again, the only thing that really changed here was statistical value, and I think they changed Hone Defense, right? So Darkfire is when attacking a foe, you have a 5% chance to apply Darkfire for 5 seconds. This effect reduces target's defense by 5%. So this was significantly buffed again. It used to be a raw statistical value. I think it was either 1,500 or 2,000. It might have been 2,000. And they basically just increased it to a raw 5%. So not horrible. Not a horrible ability at all. You can lower their defense 5%. Biggity bam. Ability scores are Dexterity, Charisma, and Wisdom. And Hone Defense, you gain a bonus 5% deflect severity. So this was actually completely changed. They even they changed the name of this too, if I recall, because the Drow was one of the only races in the entire game that had something with hit point regeneration. You had to be out of combat though, is what made it so worthless, unfortunately. So basically, when you were out of combat, you had HP regeneration. And they completely removed that, and now they have something called Hone Defenses, and it's just a simple 5% deflect severity. So, again, for PvP, this isn't a horrible race. Alright, let's get into the, the nitty-gritty here. So, Dragonborn, I don't believe they actually changed anything with Dragonborn, to be honest, right? 5% more healing from all abilities, so you have 5% incoming healing. You get 2 attributes to any statistic, and then it's 3% critical strike and 3% power. Oh, that's right, they did change this. So the critical strike used to actually be 1,500, right? So it actually got an increase, 1,500 to 3%, and then the 3% power was added, because the old Dragonborn used to be actually a raw bonus damage, and that's what made Dragonborn so good, and then you had Shine and Metallic, which was even better. So Dragonborn kind of got a nerf a little bit, in my opinion, because now there is no 3% increased damage. Now it's just 3% critical strike instead of 1,500, and it's 3% power, and they took away the 3% increased damage. I mean, it's still valid, if you're struggling for whatever reason not to hit your power cap or your critical strike cap, well, then you can gain 3% for each. So let's look at the big boy. This obviously used to be best in slot. Maybe it still is going to be considered best in slot. It all depends at this point on how you play the game, what your build is, and what you're trying to accomplish at this point. And some people might feel like Metallic Dragonborn still might be best in slot, and there's nothing wrong with that. The only reason I made this video is to show that all of the other races, for the most part, do have validity now. They are valid. You can play all the other races. You're not stuck just playing Dragonborn at this time. So Metallic Ancestry, 3% more healing. Maximum hit points is 3% higher. So this hasn't changed at all. 2 to any stats, just like normal Dragonborn. So now the Dragonborn, you gain 3% critical strike and power. So again, it's that minor nerf. What they did is they took the increased damage out and just added 3% power. So if you didn't know the difference between Dragonborn and Shine and Metallic Dragonborn before, Shine and Metallic gains a bonus to hit points, right? Where Dragonborn gets 5% incoming healing. They lower the incoming healing on Shiny, but you also gain 3% more HP. So both versions of Dragonborn had the 3% increased damage completely removed, and it was replaced with power. So now that's up to the player if they want to continue to actually go with Dragonborn or Shiny Dragonborn. That is completely up to you. Alright, we got the Ashmere, which is the newest race up until this point. It just came out at the end of Redeemed Citadel. So your power, outgoing healing, incoming healing, defense, maximum HP, all get 2%. This was buffed, okay? It used to be 1%. Now it's 2%. There's going to be a lot of support classes that might play this particular race, but you also have to worry about the bottom one because it doesn't stack. But even just all of this, right? Your power, outgoing healing, incoming healing, defense, and HP is all 2% increase. So keep in mind, in retrospect, if you're looking at this and you're thinking about playing, Dragonborn, you only get 3% HP bonus from Dragonborn. Now, yes, you do get the critical strike and the power, so if you're a healer, this does help you. But I just want to solely focus on the HP amount, right? So even with Shiny Metallic, you're only gaining 3% HP. So with the newest race, it used to be 1%. Well, now they bumped it up to 2%. And it's power, outgoing healing, incoming healing, defense, and HP. So this is actually valid, in some situations. You get to choose any 2 attributes. And then we have the Celestial Presence. Grants all nearby party members 2% increase to their HP. And it doesn't stack. Okay, but however, you get this, right? Someone can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, because I actually haven't played the race. So someone that has played the race can, let me know in the comments below. But I'm assuming you get this 2% as well. Maybe not, because it does say all nearby party members. So it would be 4% HP. But I don't think it's working like that. So all people around you, all your party members gain 2% HP. You gain the 2% HP, but I highly doubt that it stacks. Like I said, someone will have to clarify that. All right, let's wrap this up. So we have Moon Elf. Now, again, Moon Elf comes from a pack. You actually have to pay for it. And there was some changes here, if I believe, right? So your action point and stamina gain are 3% higher. Now, this was increased. It used to only be 1%, so they increased it to 3%. So when you look at the other races that have these, it's not a horrible decision, because you have the Sun Elf that has action points and you gain 5%. And then you have whatever race it was for the stamina game. I'm sorry, I don't remember. Whatever race it was for stamina gain was also 5%. But now you have the best of both worlds, and you're only losing 2%. Okay? So you can have action point gain and stamina gain at 3%, or you could pick the different race that has solely action point gain at 5% or stamina gain at 5%. So again, I will reiterate, it depends on the class you're playing. It depends on the niche build that you're playing, right? It depends on what you're trying to accomplish in the game, whether it be Zariel, whether it be Tower of the Mad Mage, whether it be the new Mod 20 dungeon, Vault of the Stars. You have to make that decision. But I'm actually excited because Cryptic sort of balanced the races to a degree now where, we don't just have one race that rules them all. For now, something might break or someone might figure out some dirty on, and then all of a sudden we have a new best in slot race. But right now, as it seems, most of just pretty much every single race in the game does have validity. Ability scores, intelligence, dexterity, charisma, and then you get 10% control resist. So we have the Renegade is the last one on the races, and I'm trying to remember here. This was definitely changed. It's 5%. it's a 5% chance, and it reduces target's defense by 3% and the damage of their attacks by 3%. And I think before, if I recall it, the defense was obviously a raw statistical value, and I want to say that it was only 1,500. So it went from 1,500 to a full 3%, and I think the damage was like 2.5% or something, so it didn't get that much of a buff. It went from like 2.5 to 3%. But still, again, validity. And then this actually was the same, because the Drow both had the same, and it is the same here as well. Hone defense is 5% deflect severity. This used to be something revolving around HP regeneration when you were out of combat, but that has been completely removed out of the game. So there it is, folks. That is all the races up until this point. As of filming this video, we are in January of 2021. We had significant combat changes coming into the game, significant changes across the board. The races did get adjusted and tweaked to a certain degree, nothing outrageous. However, in my own personal opinion, now all the races do actually have some sort of validity in the game. You're not gonna, you're not gonna see everyone running around as shiny metallic dragonborn, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, shiny metallic dragonborn still is a very good option. However, there are other options now available that might make more sense to you as an individual, again, as whatever class you're playing, whatever niche build you're using, and whatever you're trying to accomplish in the game. So that's all I got for you, folks. Make sure to smash that thumbs up button. It really helps the YouTube algorithm. Make sure to share the video with your friends. Share it in your Discord. Let everybody know. Really helps the channel grow. That's, something you could just do, and it doesn't cost you anything. So I would really appreciate it. And that's all I got for you. Leave me comments below. Let me know what race you're thinking about running and why. And yeah, I'll see you guys real soon.